Why, hello, and welcome to another incredible installment of Kaiju Conline paneling. You are watching The Eastern Front with my homeboy, August Ragone. I have never called you homeboy before. That was weird. My main man. I've known August for a long time, and August used to run this The Eastern Front column on Henshin Online. And I think even before that. And so I was like, dude, you got to come on and be part of Kaiju Conline, and let's do the Eastern Front live.
Yeah, thanks, man. And that goes all the way back to, Japanese Fantasy Film Journal, when I started writing all these incessant letters to Greg Shoemaker, and he was the editor of that legendary zine. And eventually I was sending him so much stuff. Like, here's some new stuff I got from Japantown,
Yeah.
And so eventually he said, just go ahead and write a column. Yeah, he goes, don't stop bothering me, kid. Just compile it and I'll print it, And that's kind of where that kind of started,
Right on. We did not mention Greg Shoemaker earlier. I don't have a lot of history with him at all. I don't have any history with him at all. But if you wanted to say anything right now, I know we lost Greg Shoemaker last year, right?
Yeah. So, Greg was a great guy. He founded I guess you could really say, if people include things like if you have a Facebook group and you want to call that fandom, and that's certainly been taken to the heart of the Neo Kamen Rider and like Power Ranger Super Sentai fans in the United States, where they, they're claiming that they have a fandom, but we as Godzilla fans aren't really seeing that, but they think it's a really big thing. So if we're going to, and that can be, we could argue those points, but if that's what you feel, that's what you feel. So I would feel that Greg Shoemaker is the father of American fandom. As much as he did the first fanzine that took this stuff seriously, where he wanted to know the nuts and bolts about the movies, the people who made them, and so on. So, yeah, Greg Shoemaker started his zine in '68 and ran that through the early '80s when anime was becoming really big and the live-action filmmaking was dying. And so he kind of felt alienated because it was hard to get press materials from the Japanese studios, as it was easier for him in the past, and there was no way at that time in the early '80s to really see anime in Toledo, Ohio. So he had no way of writing about it and contextualizing it for the zine. So he decided to stop. But his zine launched a lot of other zines in the '70s. Godzilla Mania, Japanese Giants, and a lot of other things. So Greg is really the father of American fandom, even though a lot of people have forgotten him. And a lot of us in the generation that I came up in, we remember, sending away for the zine, and you see an ad in the pages of Famous Monsters. Oh, wow, a magazine all about Japanese monster movies? Great. And so to us, he was a big deal. He was the founding father.
Fantastic. Then thank you for saying something about him. I would love to say something about him myself earlier on or in the opening ceremonies, but I just am one of those guys. Like I don't even know if I could say something about somebody I don't know, right? Especially for someone who had such an impact on fans back in the time before I was even really a fan.
Right, exactly. He influenced a lot of people. So, and there should be more talked about him. I mean, it'd be great if somebody was able to take all the old issues and do, a compiled version. And there were back issues that I never was able to get because they were long sold out. And so when I started writing Greg and we were corresponding with each other, every once in a while I go, can I get copies? I mean, just like, can you just Xerox the pages?
Yeah.
And he refused to for a long time. And then eventually he caved in. But he self-edited it, which means he goes, this article is irrelevant, so he'd leave that article out. Like, there's an article on 16-millimeter film collecting. Oh. And I went, no, that's he goes, well, home video is the big thing now, so that's kind of obsolete. And I was like, no, that's what I want to read about. That's why
right? Yeah.
Yeah, so Greg, self-edited those because, and there were things that maybe he was embarrassed by, maybe, something he wrote when he was a teenager in the early issues that he was like, So he just would leave those things out,
Yeah.
But it would be great if we could bring all those back. I mean, some of the early issues can run pretty high when they do show up on the collector's market. But somebody's got to bring a little more attention to what Greg has done and what Greg has done for us.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you
Yeah.
for saying that stuff,
Yeah.
man. And I did kind of a poor job of introducing you since we've known each other for so long. So for those people who are watching who are really unfamiliar, maybe a little bit unfamiliar with me, but if you don't know who I'm talking to, I'm talking
Right.
to August Ragone. Not to mention one of the hardcorest kaiju fans, tokusatsu fans I've known since I jumped into this fandom. August wrote Eiji Tsuburaya, Master of Monsters, a fantastic book, unfortunately out of print, about the director of special effects from the Godzilla series and Tsuburaya and beyond. So,
Right.
once again, dude, thank you for being part of this. Thank you for being here.
No,
And
thank you for inviting me. It's really great. And I'm glad somebody did something during
somebody's
this
got
time.
to do something. And I'm the
Exactly.
fool that said, yes, I will do that.
Right. And it's no, it's great because what would we be doing now if this wasn't happening?
Oh man, I just don't want to have to do this again next year, right? Like I'm glad I was able
Yeah.
to put this together and it's really fun and really cool. It
Right.
was quite a bit of work, but
Yeah.
honestly, I'm happy that people are enjoying it. This is, I want this to be a temporary stopgap measure and not the
Right.
future, the wave of the future that some people are saying it might have to be.
Yeah. Well, I hate to say this, but like the 1918 pandemic, even though with 100 years ago, about right, 102 years ago, they had not the same kind of medical know-how,
Yeah,
and it still took about 2 years for everything to go back to normal.
yeah.
So let's hope for the best, folks. Let's hope for a vaccine as soon as possible.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
anyway, blah.
All right. Well, let's talk about something. Tell everybody what the Eastern Front was all about on your columns before. Like, why was it
Right.
called the Eastern Front? What was it you're bringing to the people?
Well, news from the East.
The
News from
Far
Japan.
East, yes.
A play on the old Western Front. All's quiet on the Western Front. The Western Front in World War I, and yeah. So that's basically what it was. We're bringing you news from the East. And
Nice.
Greg's column, his original column, before I started contributing to it, was called "The Far East Report." So I didn't want to copy that exactly, but I wanted to pay tribute to it. So did the Eastern Front instead.
Nice.
So,
nice.
but ironically enough, the Eastern Front today is mostly Western Front because the old play on the old saying, the East is West and the West is East now. So we have total access to this stuff. There's a whole truckloads of this stuff being dumped on us right now. And it's almost more to deal with than, what's going on in Japan right now. It's what's going on in America right now because
Yeah.
it's happening. It's happening. There's almost too much at once.
We talked about this on I did a Kaiju Cast live stream a few months ago, right when this whole thing, the COVID situation kicked off and everybody was in lockdown.
Right.
And I was like, hey, this is bad. Like we're having people miss each other and all that stuff. But holy moly, what a time to be stuck at home with this veritable library that's never been opened before,
Right.
opening its doors online. Like, oh my gosh,
Right.
it's like the vaults are being unearthed, and people
Yeah.
who I'm sure you could even talk way more about it than I could. People who are alive today kind of have no idea how good they have it right now because
Oh, yeah.
everybody is coming out of the woodwork saying, oh yeah, why don't we put Fireman on Subaraya's channel? Like,
Right.
so cool. Such
It's
a good time
crazy.
to be alive
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah. Because, back in my day,
Yeah.
it's like we just watched what was on TV. There was no
Mhm.
way to see anything that was on in Japan unless you went to Japan. So if you didn't go to Japan, you didn't know what was happening. Then we found out that the closest point was Hawaii, where they had a veritable explosion of Japanese shows with English subtitles on TV in the mid 70s. And then, some of that trickled over to the West Coast, but a handful of people saw it. A handful of non-Japanese Americans saw that stuff over here on the West Coast and a couple other cities around the country. But yeah, I mean, it was either once videos started, just traded videos with people in Japan, got pen pals, and it was all Japanese only, no subtitles. You couldn't even subtitles weren't even an option.
Right. Yeah.
So nobody could complain. We would sit there and watch 4 hours of Japanese stuff and, in Japanese, no subtitles, no translation, and just be completely engrossed and fascinated. And now we have fans that have the luxury of being able to say, if it doesn't have subs, I'm not watching.
And the luxury of saying, I'm going to watch Ultraman simulcast at the exact same time it's being broadcast in Japan, like
with English subtitles.
With English subtitles, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So it's a big leap, quantum leap from what I grew up with, and I think everybody should. And now it's like people ask questions like, well, I really like Kamen Rider such and such. Should I bother checking out any of the other shows? Back in my day, if we had anything in the TV guide that said Japanese science fiction, Japanese fantasy, we're like, gotta watch that. It's like Majin, Monster of Terror, Japanese, 1966. Gotta watch that. Ultraman, gotta watch that. Spectre Man, gotta watch that. We were so hungry, we'd watch a Japanese variety show that had nothing to do with monsters. That's how hard up we were back in those days. But now we have this great thing going on.
It's a deluge of digital content being delivered. What do you want to kick things off with for this for the Eastern Front? What should we start with?
Well, maybe a little bit about Mill Creek and what they're doing and what we've gotten. So we all know and probably already all own a lot of the Blu-rays that they've been putting out, and I think it's just a great thing that has happened for everybody, and people are already going, hey, what's next? When is this coming out? When is that coming out? And I just think it's a great phenomenon. What do you think about it?
Well, first up, you, as I've said on the podcast several times, were the person that introduced me to Ultraman, and the ability to see it in various formats throughout the years is great. But that first series, even though it is my favorite, has always sort of been a standalone because everything else I've seen has been a newer series, and it doesn't really have the charm that I liked from that very first series. And so honestly, this re-release of Ultraman, but also Ultra Q, also Ultra 7, and then Return of Ultraman, which I've been dying to see forever, and now I just got Ace, and like these, I'm really can't wait to stack up on these older series, really build up and flesh out my Ultra collection, because I'm a super noob when it comes to Ultra stuff.
Yeah. Well, it's like, I think, you can start pretty much anywhere. If you're interested, and the sales have been, people always ask questions like, how are the sales on these things, or, and they're doing really good. I mean,
great.
You got to figure that some of these shows, except for the original Ultraman and marginally, well, maybe even more better in people's memories, Ultra 7 on TNT during Monster Vision. Ultraman had already sort of been out of syndication for over 10 years at that point. But besides those two series, it's pretty much a blind buy. So 90% of what Mill Creek has put out is a blind buy. And brick and mortars like Walmart are having great sales. So it's not just fans going online and ordering from Amazon or deep discount DVD or whomever. It's people walking into stores and just picking it up, which is something I don't think people would have done, 10 or 15 years ago. Because when
different situation, for sure.
Right, when I was working with BCI, we put out Red Baron, Super Robot Red Baron, and we put out Iron King, and those got into Best Buys. But I'd see them sitting on the shelf for a long time, and interacting with people online, some folks would say things like, well, I don't know what it is. Should I buy it? And now people are just going Ultraman. It's crazy. It's just a completely different attitude that's going on right now. And then I think the stay in place has kind of boosted sales too.
Well, I know for sure that Return of Ultraman, I wouldn't have been able to power through that as quickly and as thoroughly as I did if it
Right,
hadn't been for the lockdown.
right.
Yeah.
And I
Uh,
think everybody's digging the fact that they can also, they get their free movie spree purchase. They get
right.
their digital version. So I think that's great too.
Yeah. I'm actually my movie spree is pretty much full of Ultraman because of they
Yeah.
had that sale yesterday, and I picked
Oh,
up a
yeah,
couple of the titles for $7.10 a piece
yeah,
for the Ultraman Day
yeah.
celebration. That was great.
A lot of people don't realize that movie spree is also it is Mill Creek's own streaming platform. So some people are kind of confused with the new deal that just came out
Hmm.
with Shout Factory. Well, how is this going to affect movie spree? Well, it's not, because movie spree is Mill Creek's in-house streaming platform. So they're not going to go
Yeah.
take the video. They're not going to take the videos down. Tell those get out of here. They're not going to do that. So I think your movie spree is safe. Don't worry about it, folks. As for the Ultraman titles that are up on Toku HD, which is a platform that a lot of people are aware of, but maybe they haven't subscribed to it.
Yeah.
They've had quite a few Ultraman titles that they picked up after Crunchyroll, which is a big anime streaming platform, when their contracts were running out. Toku HD was the company that went and picked those titles up. That they've got stuff that Crunchyroll didn't get, and they've got stuff that Mill Creek hasn't released yet, like Ultraman 80, Ultra 7X, Ultraman Neos, and so on. And even the English dubbed Ultraman Max is up on Toku HD, which is watchtoku.com.
I actually subscribed to that service. I actually, at the beginning of lockdown, I was like, you know what? It's only like $3-4 a month. I'm just going to sign up for it. Unfortunately, I know that I messaged them about it. They are working on more platforms that they can be available on, because right now it's kind of in my house. I can really only bring them up on my computer or my phone or whatever. So hopefully they'll get some more accessibility for people like me. But it's a great service just for those releases. Also, they were the first company or the first place you could watch Neo Ultra Q subtitled in English.
Right, and as well as Gridman and Mirror Man, which is a 1972 giant superhero series from Subaraya, which is, I've been dying for that to come over for years, because you tell people that already are watching Ultraman over the last 20 years or whatever, and they'll go, I really like Ultraman. What about this Mirror Man thing? I'm like, watch it. It's giant guys punching each other. There's buildings blowing up. If you like Ultraman, you're going to like Mirror Man.
Fantastic. I'm going to have to check that out for sure.
Yeah. But so we got Mill Creek chugging right along, and that segues into the fact that they're doing this big deal with Shout Factory, which they just announced yesterday, and that is going to be Shout Factory's getting pretty much the entire Ultra catalog for streaming on Shout Factory TV, which will extend. I would imagine, they haven't mentioned it yet. When I talked to their marketing director yesterday, they're saying that there's going to be a lot more stuff announced over the next few months about what they're doing exactly. But if you take what they've already done with Kamen Rider, these are going to end up on like Tubi, and it'll obviously be on Pluto channel, the Toku's Shoutsu channel that Shout has launched on Pluto. Those will all go into there somehow. Maybe they'll even be like it's their own, because that's a lot of content which they're going to unveil. They're not going to dump it all at once. It's going to come out a little bit at a time.
Yeah, it would be like the Ultra channel, Ultra TV channel, if they just dumped it all in there. Yeah.
There's a possibility of them, doing something like that. So it's pretty exciting, and it's apparently the deal isn't a short-term deal.
Cool. Very good.
They're in for a long haul on this, because most of these streaming contract rights, are usually about a 5-year deal. I think they're going all in for a little more than that right now.
All right.
That's kind of what I'm getting from what I'm hearing. And Shout Factory is also going to exploit their Ultraman catalog that they're getting.
Yeah.
So they're going to be doing a lot of stuff with it besides just showing it. So
cool.
I can go on there and do VOD, or I could do they're going to do linear, but they're also going to do other things. So I'm thinking, that they're going to do special events online, live streaming shows and whatnot. And there's a lot of stuff that's in the
Call me
pipeline.
Shout Factory. I've got a whole setup here.
Yeah, you do. You certainly do. So that's something to kind of be looking forward to.
Yeah. So since we're talking about Shout Factory, do you want to go ahead and talk a little bit more about their movie announcement?
Right. So this weekend, well, that's actually today. So we had Ultraman Day yesterday. We've got, Kaiju Conline today, and Shout Factory with the Nerdist, in conjunction with the Nerdist and Geek and Sundry. They're doing a celebration of Kamen Rider today. So they're having like online panels.
Oh, right on. Very cool.
And the big thing that they're doing and it's all done on their YouTube channel, is the North American, and that is US and Canada, just for all you Canucks, you're not being shut out, is that they're doing the world premiere of a recent Kamen Rider movie, Kamen Rider Heisei Generations Forever.
Oh.
And that is premiering today at 4 p.m. Pacific. I don't want to take anybody away from Kaiju Conline, but that's what's happening.
Fantastic.
So they're doing that today at 4 p.m. Pacific.
All right.
I think I might have an image for that.
Here, I got it. Let me see if I can. Does this work? It's a wide image, but right, that's like is that what we're talking about? No, that says 1222. God, man, amateur hour. Here we go.
Let's see. I'm trying to get in here. Well, I can't even move this damn thing. Here we go. Let's see. Let me move that. Let's get this up here. And that's by the way, that's the Art Adams cover. There we go. That should be it. And hey!
Oh, nice. There you go. Very cool.
Yeah, so that's what they're doing today. I guess the panels are at 4, and then 5 o'clock is the premiere of the film. So
fantastic.
I don't know
like
if I'm
how
going to
they
have
also
time to
used
watch
a
it.
similar font to Kaiju Conline's web font there.
Oh, did they?
No, just messing around. No, that's awesome, man. We've got yeah, right. That we've got a live streaming movie from Kamen Rider. I've been noticing a lot more Kamen Rider stuff happening. When we talked about the lockdown stuff earlier, one of those things that made me go, wow, was the launching of the Tokusatsu channel, I guess, and then in just having Kamen Rider available, isn't it the entire series? First series is available on Shout Factory.
Yeah, all 98 episodes, and fully subtitled in English, and it's something that was been needing to happen for a long time. Generation Kikaida in Hawaii put out a lot of great stuff on DVD, like the Kamen Rider B3 series, which is the second series after the original, as well as Inazuman and Kikaida 01, all these 1970s shows produced by Toei Company. And they wanted to get the original Kamen Rider, but the price was too high. Toei is kind of notoriously known for high asking prices. And when I was at BCI working on getting some of these titles, Cliff McMillan, who's at Shout Factory, Scream Factory rather, which is still Shout Factory, he was trying to get the original Kamen Rider. And they wanted so much money that he asked to. I never signed an NDA for this, so I think it's okay to say it. If I upset you or offended you, I'm sorry. But what Cliff wanted to do is then negotiate with Toei to do it over 2 separate box sets, and go like, we'll do the first one, and we'll get the clearances so we'll pay half price for that, and we'll put that out, and then we'll have the guarantee to pick up the second and do 2 box sets. And Toei was no way. It's all or nothing. So it just floundered. Generation Kikaida couldn't do it. BCI couldn't do it. And I think Toei, with all this time going by, almost 10 years, or are over. Toei's kind of said, well, we got these things collecting dust, and we're not making any money off of it. So maybe we should come down on their prices a little bit, because that has been sort of their model with their old catalog IP anime stuff, that they've been lowering their prices, apparently.
Well, that's good for good news for people out there who want to catch their stuff. If they're lowering their prices, then hopefully we'll see more Toei out there. Toei is another group. They launched their own YouTube channel too.
Right. Yeah, they've got the World Tokusatsu official channel, and I think that's basically a marketing tool, and there's nothing wrong with that. You know, again, all these IPs are sitting around collecting dust, and some of them have been sold to other countries in the past, but North America has been the really big market that's hard to crack. So I think what they've done is they've said, look, we're going to put up 70 different shows, and that number is dependent on the different territories. If they have already sold one of the shows to another country for, home video or television, then that'll be excluded they'll be blocked in that territory or country. So they started out with like 70 titles and subtitling the first 2 episodes. And that sounds like a sampler to me, And as the weeks have gone by, they were doing uploads of the shows that got the most hits in whichever territory.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
They would add more episodes, and then some of them they sat on. Like one of my favorite shows is Henshin Ninja Arashi, or Transforming Ninja Arashi from 1972. It's basically Kamen Rider set in the feudal samurai period. So instead of motorcycles, it's horses. And that show, they did the first 2 episodes, and then they didn't. The third week, there wasn't a third episode. And just recently, they started adding more episodes of Arashi, for example. So we'll see what happens. Some of the shows have already been licensed for America, but mostly right now they're the anime ones. And there's no Super Sentai because of Hasbro owning the franchise now. But a couple of the anime shows that are coming, I can mention one now because it's already been announced, which is Combattler V, which was also in the Marvel Comics Shogun Warriors comic book. So here's a Marvel segue coming, as well as, it was part of the Shogun Warriors line with Mattel back in the day. So are known as Combatra. So now we're getting the original series on standard definition, because Toei doesn't have HD copies yet. They haven't done HD remasters. So we're getting SD on Blu-ray, and that comes out, I think, next month in August. So it's all 50, I think 52 or 54 episodes in one set, all English subtitles.
All right, there you go. Someone in the chat was just asking, just saying they hope these actually do see the light of day as home video as opposed to just streaming. Is sort of what I'm gathering from that, and I agree completely. Like I'm a physical media kind of guy. I love the ability to be like, ooh, I'm in my bed in my pajamas. I don't want to have to get up and go to my DVD shelf. Here it goes, Ultra Q episode 1, but honestly, I'm glad these people, these companies are recognizing that there's a market still for home video.
Right. And Discotech Media, and a lot of people might not be familiar with them because, we have a lot of Ultraman watchers. We have a lot of Godzilla, watchers, Gamma as well, right? So, people might not be familiar with a label like Discotech because it deals with a lot of retro anime, a lot of classics. But they just started dipping into tokusatsu. So last year, although, with this weird COVID thing, the time means nothing anymore.
Yeah.
So don't quote me on that. Don't hold that against me. They put out 2 Toei series, from one from the 70s and one from the 80s. They did the spin-off series from the Message from Space movie, which was, released around the world in 1978. That sold to 33 countries at the time, which was the largest selling Japanese film in history. Sold to more countries in the world than any other Japanese film. In fact, in 1978. So it's the spin-off series. It's got Hiroyuki Sanada in it, who's been in 2 Marvel movies playing villains, 2 MCUs playing different characters. Hawkeye killed him in Endgame. He was the Yakuza boss in Endgame, and he was Silver Samurai in the Wolverine movie.
Really? Yeah.
Hiroyuki Sanada, who was Sonny Chiba's protege, was a huge star in the 80s in Japan. Made his debut as a star in Message from Space. And Hiroyuki Sanada was in the Speed Racer movie, the Wachowski Speed Racer movie.
Oh, yeah. I actually
Yeah,
know a
he
lot
was.
of people that really sort of like cult statusy love that movie. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fun movie, man. And it's got Peter Fernandez got a cameo in that too, but who's the voice dubber for Speed Racer? For those who don't know,
Yeah.
But Hiroyuki Sanada's been in stuff like he was recently in. Well, he's been in big franchises, man, in big productions here, including he was in 2 seasons of Westworld. He was Musashi in season 2 and 3. So, and he was in the Ringu movies.
Yeah, I remember him from
And
Ring.
a lot of other stuff. Award-winning director, Last Samurai with Mr. What's his name? What's that actor's name? I can remember.
Watanabe-san?
No, with the American guy who's
Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise. I usually reference Tom Cruise in my head as Tom Cruise Missile. So I think Cruise Missile. It's Tom Cruise, but through word association. But so his first starring TV show, Message from Space: Galactic Wars, is out on Blu-ray from Discotheque. It's a TV series spin-off from Message from Space. So they're flying around in space and they're fighting intergalactic weirdo ninjas.
Nice.
It's awesome. It's awesome fun. You might not like it. Remember, it was made in 1978, so it's not going to be high tech, but it's a lot of fun. It's action packed. It's if you like ninjas and martial arts and you like space stuff, it's you might dig it, man. And then the other series finally we get around to is Just Beyond, which was a Toei show from 1985 that was part of the Metal Heroes series. Like you got some of the Space Sheriff stuff on the YouTube channel for Toei, and so it's similar to that. But it has, instead of him fighting a different human-sized monster of the week, it's giant monsters.
Nice.
So they decided to sort of like there was a revival, a huge surge in popularity in the mid 80s for Ultraman in Japan. And so Toei said, why don't we play a hand in that? And why don't we capitalize off of that? And we'll put giant monsters in this show, and maybe we'll pick up more kid viewers. We'll get some of the Ultraman audience. So it's this guy who's silver suited. He fights a bunch of baddies that are human sized, but then there are giant monsters. So he has a giant robot to fight them. And that is also out on Discotheque.
Fantastic.
Fun series, lots of action, about 44 episodes of good old clean tokusatsu fun.
So before we move on to the Marvel stuff, I'm curious, because Toei has such a massive library. Is there any one particular series that you're like, man, I would love to see this full series of this particular title come to home video here in the States?
Right. Well, Shout Factory's kind of working on the Kamen Rider franchise right now. So we'll see what happens. They're interested in doing more. They told me, just hang on. We're working on some stuff. We'll let you know. And this is one of the things that has come from it. The screening today of the Kamen Rider Heisei Generations Forever. But what series that they have on there? It's like a kid in a candy store with $10, or a kid in a Bullmark store with $10,000. It's like, where do you start? Or with $5, which one do I buy? But I don't know. It would be all of them, I would say.
All of them.
They've got stuff like the Robot Family shows, and I've ignored a lot of those over the years. You watch 1 or 2 episodes to get a feel of what it is.
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, it's made for little kids, like real little kids. Yeah, I know these shows are made for kids to teens, but these are kids.
Yes. There's some that are way kid friendly, way too kid friendly.
But watching
Robocon,
I think one of the ones they had on there is Robot 8-chan, and I watched the first 2 episodes with subtitles, and I went, wow, this is actually something. If I had a kid, if I had a child, that I would watch it with them and find it amusing and funny. On a different level.
Yeah.
But it was well written. And the cast members were like, there's 2 of the cast members from Return of Ultraman are in it. The regular cast members. There's there's The actor who played Hideki Go, who
Okay.
changes into Ultraman. He's this professor that builds robots, and the actor's name is Jiro Dunn. And then you have Rumi Sakibahara, rather, who played his girlfriend Aki in Return of Ultraman.
Oh.
And she plays the mother of a guy the mother of a kid, the main kid in the story, whose husband is a robot repairman. So it had this nice little setup where like robots are a part of Japanese society already.
Yeah.
And they had these nice dynamics, and I found it pretty amusing. But that wouldn't be my first pick to put out. Now, mind you, most of the shows on the Toei service they only go up to about the 80s or very early 90s.
Okay.
And most of the ones from the early 90s, they've got Changereon and God, what else? What are we able to watch over here? There's Changereon, and then there's a couple others. But I mean, the one that keeps popping back up in my head, man, constantly is there's two shows, I would say, which is Akumizer 3 from 1975.
All right.
And Henchi Ninja Arashi from 1972, because it's more of like, let's see something that's not contemporary. It's a show that's set in medieval Japan, and where magic and weird occult science, coexist, and there's like, ninja monsters.
Yeah. Sidebar. I'm a huge fan of Demon Hunter Mitsurugi.
Yes.
Which also set in feudal era Japan. It's like a Sentai hero show set in feudal era Japan. Really fun stuff. Yeah. Really fun stuff. And I totally watched that ninja show you're talking about on Shout Factory, or on the Toei YouTube channel. I was like, I gotta check this out. And then when he changed, I was like, I know that guy.
Right. And once you see everybody's seen the character.
Yeah.
But I mean, the show's a lot of fun. I mean, there's some interesting background about that show, but we can save that for another time, where there was a knockdown drag out between Arashi and Ultraman Ace, because they were both on at the same time on different networks on the same night.
Oh, wow.
So they were competing shows. So both of them weren't pulling the best ratings they could, because they had two strong shows competing.
Yeah.
And so as used to happen pretty frequently in Japan, when something like that would happen, the networks and the sponsors would blame the show's creators. I think we still do that here, don't we?
Probably, yeah.
And shows get canceled that way, right? So instead of canceling the shows, what they do is they go, you've got to make dramatic changes.
Yeah.
So when people wonder why in Ultraman Ace, how far have you got through Ultraman Ace?
Oh, 0. It showed up right before this thing, and I'm like, as soon as the convention's over, I'm gonna dive headfirst into it.
Okay, cool. Well, it's a major spoiler, so I'm not going to drop it. But there was something in the show, and when you get to it, you'll go, "Oh, I see what August was talking about."
Okay.
But there was a major change, a dramatic story shift and character shift in Ultraman Ace, and the same thing happened in Arashi. So you're going through this one phase of it, if you watch like the first 10 or 12 or whatever episodes, and it's got this set pattern. And then suddenly things change. Okay. Like the costumes change, the costume design changed. A couple characters got dropped, a couple characters get added. The main villain kind of disappears a little bit, and then there's these other kind of like sub-villains that appear. Oh. And then Arashi suddenly has a twin brother who also
very soap opera.
Yeah. The evil twin shows up. And then it does all these, and it does these weird things, and you can see it. Some of it may seem like an improvement or whatever, but the reason why these changes happened was solely because of ratings and fighting against this other show. And it was like, Ultraman Ace versus Henshin Ninja Arashi. Nice. So when back in that time in the 70s, especially in 1972, and you get into 73 was sort of the peak year with so many shows on TV. There was so much competition. So people will say things, why did this show only last 13 episodes? Or why did that one show, it looks really cool. I saw an episode, I really liked it. Why did it only run 26 episodes? and that was because it's got its ass handed to it to them by another show on one of the other networks. And back in the 70s in Japan, maybe just regular terrestrial television, you would have maybe 6 or 7 channels to choose from.
Mm-hmm.
And by 1970, late 72 and early 73, every single network wanted a tokusatsu show.
Yeah, piece
because
of pie, right?
ratings were crazy. So so let's add it up this way. Between 1971, with the premiere of Spectre-Man, which they decided to do that to get the jump on, because Return of Ultraman was announced.
Mm-hmm.
And so these other companies said, we're going to get the jump on them, and P Productions jumped and got Spectre-Man on the air like 2 months before Return of Ultraman. And then you had Return of Ultraman, then Kamen Rider premiered, the original Kamen Rider premiered. So you had like 3, and then maybe a sort of a 4th show. It's The Magic Teacher from Toei, which is also on their YouTube channel. And that's kind of a kiddie show with a witch girl who has magical powers.
Oh,
and then somewhere in the show, she changes into a superhero called Andromask partway through the show. So it's like a female superhero.
Okay.
And that's her, like, it's like she's a this magic person disguised as a teacher, but then she has another disguise she changes into become a superhero.
Yeah, I think I saw that, like live action Sailor Moony kind of thing, right?
Kind of, yeah.
Kind of, sort of, in a roundabout way.
All that stuff actually comes from the roots of all that, the magic girl genre in Japan. Yeah. But anyway, the where the hell was I? There was so you had that show come on, and then 72 really started kicking in with a lot more superhero shows. So let's fast forward all the way to 1979, right? So between 1971 and the premiere of Spectre-Man in January of that year to the end of 1979, there were 63. That's 3 superhero shows on Japanese TV.
Dude, when we did, so I did an episode of the Kaiju Cast with Keith Foster. He loves, Keith, he loves like the funky 70s TV shows. So we sort of did like a hero show, as newbies coming in, what looks fun, what looks cool. And I grabbed your Marcolite issue that had the sort of like, here are the shows that came out in the 50s, the 60s, the 70s. And for the viewers out there, that list just goes, it starts like this big, and the next decade it's this big. And by the time you get to the 70s, it's like 3 pages long. It's like crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty nutty, the output. And the fact of the matter that any of these shows survived the energy crisis, which kind of killed the production of these shows. It reduced the number of them really dramatically because they were expensive to produce. Contrary to popular belief, where people go, "Oh, they're just low budget shows," they were more expensive to produce than like a samurai show,
right? Where
they had standing sets. You could have a Kyoto standing set, and you had years and years of movie studios having costumes for period film. So and swords and whatever, and so that was much more cheap to produce. The only people that got, the biggest expenditure for a samurai show was the cast.
Right.
Want to get some big actors to be in it. But the superhero shows were very expensive to produce. And they had to produce these things like in 4 to 5 days per episode. So there was never a break. They'd go from one episode to they'd have 1 day off, and then they'd start shooting on Monday. And it was like Daisuke Ban, who was the star of Kikaida, that told us that was the production schedule. And then if you already had a contract to go to the next show, you would have maybe, like a week break or something, and then you would do rehearsals, and then you started the shooting production again. The same cycle.
Now, man.
6 days a week. Anyway, so we're running out of time, man.
Yeah, I actually, perfect time to even take note of that. We got about 5 minutes before the panel ends. So I guess I'd ask you, is there anything that you specifically say, oh, well, we got to share this before we take off?
Right. Well, we should probably quickly just go like, we all know the Marvel comic book is coming out. It's a 5-issue miniseries. If sales are good, basically this is an open-ended agreement. So there'll be more. and maybe tackling different characters. Like in the first issue that Marvel just previewed, you have something that startled me, which was you have the recreation of the scene where Hayata meets Ultraman, but instead of Hayata flying the vehicle that crashed, and I was like, that's the wrong jet VTOL.
Okay.
You know, the person piloting is Moriboshi Dan, the human identity of Ultra 7.
Yes.
So I'm going, and then the second page, the bottom panel, you have this bright, blinding light, but through it you can see just a little bit of a face, and it's Ultra 7's face. So they're going to be doing some wild stuff. The art is stupendous. It looks great. Things that happened, yesterday during Ultraman Day, they announced, the beta capsule prop that's coming, and it's not a toy. It's even higher grade than Bandai's replica prop that they put out. This thing is being tooled out of metal. It's being done by a company called Factory Entertainment.
Ooh, fantastic.
Factory Entertainment, deals with doing high-end props, replica props, and they're also doing some Ultraman lunchboxes, the tin totes for the animated Ultraman series, the CG Netflix show. But the beta capsule is going to be very limited item. They haven't worked on the price point yet or what the minimum number is going to be. But judging on stuff that they've done before, like the Green Hornet Stinger and some of their other replica props of weapons and guns and things like that, expect this beta capsule to be in the $300 to $400 range. I'd be surprised if it was lower than $250.
Oh man!
And it's light and sound.
Just so people have something pretty to look at, this is the beta. This is the picture I found on kaijubattle.net, Michael Farah's website. Gorgeous looking. Man, I think that's going to blow away everything I have beta capsule wise in my collection. That's awesome. Right.
It just looks, it's pretty amazing. So, you got them doing that. Marty Abrams at Mego, they're doing the Ultraman figure. He is he unveiled yesterday the whatchamacallit. What am I talking about? I have no idea.
The head sculpt, right?
The head sculpt, yeah. I'm trying to do two things at once. And
no problem.
Getting distracted with all this new stuff. So, I sent that over to you, I think. And this is courtesy. These screenshots are courtesy of Absolutely Retro. Can you see those? Are there on? Yeah,
they are on now. Yes, sir.
Okay, so he just showed off the head for the prototype. They're talking about this thing coming out as soon as the fall. So that's pretty quick, man. Marty doesn't let any moss grow under his feet, man. That's for sure. We went over the Kamen Rider stuff. We've got Ultraman Z or Ultraman Zet. Is on every Friday with English subtitles on Super Ai's official Ultraman YouTube channel. If you don't, people were contacting me recently. I didn't know this was on. So yes, the latest show is being simulcast right now every Friday at 5:30 Pacific, and each episode is only going to be up for about 2 weeks. Speaking of Ultraman Z, if you go to the Bandai Premium website, because they do sell stuff to foreigners. There's an American, there's the English website for North America. It's only limited amounts of things that they sell to North America. But currently, until Monday, the sale ends Monday, or the pre-orders end Monday, rather. They have apparel, cosplay apparel, for the storage group from Ultraman Z.
Oh, wow.
They have the vest. Let me pull that up real quick. There we go there, and there we go there. Do you see it?
Not quite yet. I'm sure it's coming in just a second though, right?
Okay, let's get that.
If people have not checked it out, by the way, I also just want to say, not only is it cool that it's streaming, Ultraman Z is actually a super fun show. Really, so far, I'm loving it. The very first episode had Gomez, one of my favorites.
Yes. So I think I got that to you now.
Yep. Yeah. Here we go. We're looking at the storage cosplay. Yeah. Oh,
so they have the jumpsuit, the cap, the tactical vest, and the T-shirt. And that's not just a T-shirt. That's the T-shirt that the crew wears underneath the jumpsuit or underneath the vest. So those are all replicas of the wardrobe from the TV show. These are for pre-order. Pre-order ends Monday, the 13th.
Oh.
So you might want to jump on that. That's going to be a really good thing to get. Let's see. We've got the Kodansha in Japan. They're putting out. They just launched yesterday on Ultraman Day a new series of MOOCs, which are magazine books.
Mm-hmm.
They're very slick. This is very slick magazine style books. They're 52 pages, all color, and it's called the Ultra Tokusatsu. What is the full title of this thing? Is the Ultra Tokusatsu MOOC series. They start with issue 0, which already sold out. Issue 0 covers the length and breadth of Tsuburaya's superhero stuff. It'll probably be reprinted. They always do that in Japan. And issue 2, or issue rather, that's issue 0. Then issue 01, which is an entire 52 page MOOC on Ultra 7, the original 1967 series with some stuff on the later iterations. That also was released yesterday. Wow. And they're also offering a binder to store all of the books in. As you collect. So new editions will come out every month. So you could get that through Amazon Japan.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So I think I might have, if we have time, I might have the cover. We all seen that Art Adams Marvel comic cover, which is pretty amazing for the Rise of Ultraman comic. Let's see here. All right. And I should have just sent all these images to you, man.
It's all good, man. Yeah, this will be the last one we share, and then yeah, very cool.
So you can order these from America. You can go on to amazonco.jp, and you can register for an account, and you can buy items from Amazon Japan. And there's those intimidated by Japanese language. You can select the language and have your Amazon account in Amazon Japan in English. So it shouldn't be hard to find. And about that Ultraman Z apparel, the website, very important to go to the website for Bandai Premium, because people are going to go, what, where? It's p-bandai.com/US. That's p-bandai.com/US. Go and get your Ultraman Z apparel.
All right. Get out there and buy, everybody. Purchase all
Thanks a lot, man.
Ultraman. August, thank you so much for joining us, for bringing the Eastern Front to Kaiju Conline. I really appreciate it. Thanks to everybody who's watching live. Sorry we didn't get to any questions or like that, but hopefully you've been having a good time at Kaiju Conline. The next panel that I am literally going to hop out of this one and jump into is the next episode of Collect All Monsters, happening not on the Kaiju Cast channel, but on the Collect All Monsters channel. So we'll hope to see you over there in like 5 minutes. August, thanks again, buddy.
Thanks, man.
Catch you on the flip side. You too.
Shuach!
Shuach!